Here's an update on the Sprint to a Billion documentary.
I spent nearly half my net worth on a cup of coffee. Let me explain. Now, a few weeks ago, I found out about a business conference going on at a country club close to my area. So I decided that I'm going to, show up at the event because I was thinking investors, mentors, people with a higher net worth than I have, because this would effectively catapult me into into a realm that I'm not in, because your network is your net worth. And if you have a network of people that have achieved high things and you're here, it's equivalent to you being here because you have contacts that are up here. So all you have to do is use them to your advantage while giving them value for them to effectively put you up here. So that was the first thing that came to my mind was, you know what, I can find investors, I can find mentors for my gym invention. And quite frankly, that was what was on my mind 24/7. So I tried emailing the company responsible for this event, trying to ask if I could appear and show up as a volunteer to help around, give out drinks, registration, such stuff. But I got rejected, and you know that touched me. But I still had it in my mind that, I'm going to do anything it takes to get to this event. So it didn't phase me in any way. I still had it on my calendar, and I said, you know what, I'm going to make this the day that, I find an investor, find a mentor. So I decided to use some of the last money that I had, which was my $55 net worth that was sitting in my bank account. And I decided to use a fraction of this money to get myself to the event in a cab, because obviously I didn't want to go there walking, because I didn't want to sweat in front of the investors or potential mentors. So I spent about $5 to get a cab to and from the venue. So that was negative $5 to the money that was in my bank account. I also decided for me to be allowed to sit in the lobby, or to sit, somewhere in the vicinity of where the important people or investors, potential investors and mentors would be sitting, is I would have to grab something to drink or something, definitely not something to eat, because it wasn't in my capacity. I didn't have the money for that. But I decided I'm going to buy a coffee and just hang around the area, hang around by the bar, see who comes by, and the people that pass by. All I'll have to do is intercept and speak to them there by the bar. So I set up my post there by the bar, ordered a coffee, and just waited. But minutes turned into hours, and of course, as always, I found out that it was easier said than done. It was easier said than done, because people were passing by, and these guys were coming to the bar, ordering their things, ordering their drinks, and all I could get was a hi, how are you? And from that, they were so busy. Some of them, you just say hi, they say hi back, or they just nod at you and they went to and from their meeting places, because, of course, it's a business conference. They're looking for, they have a set mindset, and they already know who they've come from at the event. So it's from point A, point B, from meeting to meeting. They don't care about who's in between, who's stopping them. So, yeah, it just sunk in that it was easier said than done. It was actually a lot harder to talk to them. And then I managed to speak to one of the important looking people, and it was only a brief hi, how are you? And he asked me what I was doing in such a place on a Saturday, with books, with a bag, with everything, on a Saturday at such a young age, because obviously I look younger, I was younger than everyone at the event. So yeah, and from that, it was like his assistant or some lady just called him, and he had a meeting, he had to hop through it. So he just smiled at me and waved, and he went. And I ended up sitting there for like 3 hours. I was just waiting to see if he could come back out and we could finish our conversation, because I was this close to pitching my idea, and it was a good opening to pitching my invention and my startups and showing him my channel and everything. But as luck would have it, it was just a tease of what was actually going to happen, and he just went 3 hours later. Minutes turned into hours of waiting, and I just realized that I had hit the ceiling. And if you use an app like a taxi liaison app, you know that in the rain prices spike, and I didn't have the money to pay for this potential spike in prices when it starts to rain, and it was about to start to rain. So I realized I had hit the ceiling for the day. I had to recoup, rethink. I had to come back and just rake my mind and just see where exactly I went wrong and what exactly happened. And it was this action on impulse that was what was eating me up. It was like, what, I just found out about this business conference days before, and I acted on impulse, used the money that I had to get to this event, and I was already down a quarter of my net worth. Now, think about this. The $55 that was in my bank account, I could have just kept it there and let it compound to a point where it would be actually useful, or I could just save it and just add more money on top of it to just pay for the provisional patent application needed for my invention, the rat lift. And I would have been able to come online here, show pictures and all that. But after thinking for a while, I realized that it wouldn't be worth the value of finding an investor, finding a mentor. So that's why people say scared money doesn't make money, because when you're scared to use your money, especially for something as productive as this was, even though it was on impulse, it's like I would have sat there in regret and just thinking, what if I found an investor? What if I found a mentor? And I was this close, like with the person that I spoke to, I was this close to getting an investor or a mentor, because he already seemed interested in why I was there. But of course, it was just a teaser. It was just to see if I would keep going, and I tried to keep going by waiting, but as usual, it wasn't as easy as I thought it would be. And after thinking and thinking, I realized that you have to roll a dice so many times for you to actually land on a 6. And I tell myself this every single time that I fail, is how many times are you willing to fail for it to be like directly proportional for how much you're going to succeed. And you have to be willing to fail. You have to be willing to get the 1s, to get the 2s, to get the 3s, which are all fails in my perspective, for you to get the 6, which is a win. And you have to roll the dice so many times for you to get that 6. You're going to land on 5s, where you get very close to the 6, but almost doesn't count. Like the way I got so close to finding an investor or a mentor, I got only so close. I got a 5 per se, and that just shows me that what, I was so close. I have to keep trying. And only some people, and it rarely happens where you roll the dice first time or second time you get that 6. But for me, it's just been a constant period. The last 3 years, the last 2 years have been a constant period of just me rolling the dice, trying to see if I'm going to land on that 6 one day. And that's what keeps me going, that's what fuels me, and that's what should fuel you to continue trying. Even when you fail, you should still find that inner peace in yourself to say success doesn't happen overnight, and it actually happens from you compounding how many times you're able to fail, or how many times you're able to try, how many times you're able to fall down and pick yourself back up. So that's what success is, and that's how I personally define success. And it's just been me constantly saying, you know what, I can either end on the 5, where I've got so close and this doesn't work out. I've been rolling the dice for so long and I can't take this anymore, and quit after getting so close. Or I can continue rolling the dice, maybe fail again, pick myself back up, and get a 6 the next time and win at this game of entrepreneurship. And that's what the most successful people are made of. It's just the people with high tolerance to failure, and like high tolerance to being rejected and failing so many times. And you just have that tolerance in you to say, you know what, I'm going to give this another shot, I'm going to try again, I'm not going to give up, I'm going to keep going. And that's what the most successful people have done, and that's what makes them successful, because people give up when the road gets tough. No one wants to stay there. When there's fire under their feet, everyone wants to move. But the winners are made from the people that decide to stand there a second longer than everyone else ever stood. And that's what makes them successful, because no one wants to stand in fire for so long. And like I said, I'm not a what if guy. I'm not the guy who'd sit back and think, you know, what if it worked? What if I could have found an investor? What if I could have found a mentor if I went? And that's exactly why I usually act on impulse when I think of something, when it resonates with something I want to do. You know what? You just have that drive in you where you think and you say to yourself, you know what? I'm not going to give up. I'm going to push past this barrier, and I'm going to keep moving regardless of what people think or say about what I'm doing, you know. And that what if is why I'm able to take failures and say, you know what, it's better than the regret of thinking, like failing to sleep because you say, what if it could have worked out? I'd rather find out and fail and find out it was a failure rather than overthink for days and months on end to the endless possibilities that could have been there for opportunity to win. And like I said, my journey is all about showing you the wins, showing you the losses, showing you the raw enterprise. I call it the raw enterprise of what exactly it takes to be successful, what exactly it takes to be a billionaire. And that's exactly why I posted this video on YouTube, is for you guys to see the raw footage of me trying, of me failing over and over and over again until I finally get the win. And hopefully you can use it, like I say, as a blueprint for you to achieve your dreams and to take that risk and take that failure as just another step in the journey, just another day until you're able to take failures like me and get up and tell people about it regardless of what they say and regardless of the judgment, and keep moving forward. And that's what it takes to be successful. I'm currently at $42.5 out of 1 billion US dollars, and I mean, I'm a significant distance from $1 billion, but I'm also a significant distance from where I started as well, because I have learned more. And growth doesn't always show on the surface. For a tree to shoot up, right? For a tree to grow and to shoot up, its roots first have to develop, because it has to have the capacity underground for it to hold a tree. So, and that's what I take it as, is even though my bank account, or even though right now I don't look like, you know, I'm billionaire material, it's because my roots are so rooted down there, and my roots are the ones that are growing for to be able to hold the billionaire status and to hold the successful status. I first need to grow those roots, and that's exactly what I believe I've done through learning, through trying, through taking risks, through failing, through picking myself back up after I fail. So that's just growth of my roots before you finally get to see the shoots. And that's exactly what you should be able to say about your journey and about your failures. And that's what's going to fuel you to keep going every day. And trust me, take it from a guy who's failed numerous times and who keeps going and who posts crazy content, setting crazy goals for this year. So road to $200, road to moving out of my dorm room, and road to becoming a millionaire before the year ends. It was $5 for the transport, about $5 for the $5 for Goodwill. I gave $5 away to Goodwill. Here's a clip of that.
Hello.
Here you go.
Oh my goodness, you're so...
You too.
My goodness.
I told you last time that I'll give you next time, so that's.
And the $2.50 was for the coffee, so yeah, that's negative $12.50. Anyway, see you guys in the next video.